Now, I mentioned at the start of the show that Ofgem, the energy regulator, have been extremely busy over the last couple of weeks. The first was an announcement about the energy price cap, and that's going to be going down. I'll cover that at the end of this piece because I'll actually cover also the latest fixed price energy deals and let people know whether it's a good time to fix or not. So let's park that one. Let's look at something else that was announced by Ofgem, and it was following a major review that they've conducted into the installation of prepayment meters, and it's resulted in a substantial compensation package for thousands of customers. The core of this issue is that a number of energy suppliers were found to have inappropriately installed prepayment meters or remotely switched smart meters to prepayment mode for a number of customers. Now, this often happened without valid consent and in some cases involved customers in vulnerable situations. Now, what followed was a major investigation. In fact, over 150,000 cases were looked at between January 2022 and 2023, and Ofgem essentially found that the installations that were happening were either not safe or not reasonably practicable, and they determined that customers didn't receive the necessary support that they needed when they were getting into energy debt. So as a result, 8 major suppliers have agreed compensation. Now, those major suppliers are Octopus, and that also includes customers from Bulb and Shell, because Octopus took on those customers during the pandemic period, and also EDF, E.ON, Utility Warehouse, Scottish Power, Ecotricity, Good Energy and True Energy. Now, you may have noticed there's some major ones I've missed out there, notably British Gas, OVO and Utilita. Now, these are actually being investigated separately, so these aren't part of this initial compensation claim that I'm talking about. So as a result of those 8 suppliers being investigated, £18.6 million worth of compensation has been agreed, and those energy suppliers have agreed to this as well. Now, that is broken down as £5.6 million in direct payment to customers as compensation, and £13 million of that 18 million is being put into what they call debt write-offs, which will be fantastic news for those who are worried about that. So we've written an article on the Money to the Masses website which goes into far more detail than I'm going to cover on this podcast, and I'll put a link to that in the show notes. But ultimately, this compensation package impacts around 40,000 customers between that period, again, January 2022, January 2023. And I've got an article on screen now which just covers off how that compensation will be paid out to customers. Now, I won't read it all out. It is there for people who are watching it on the podcast, but it goes from £40 to £60 at the lower end. But those who were more significantly impacted by these breaches, if you like, can get up to £1,000 in compensation, and that is for an inappropriate installation, a switch or use of the prepayment meters. And so if you listen to this and thinking, well, that could be you may be eligible to claim, there's no need for you to actively claim. The energy suppliers will be actively contacting eligible customers directly to arrange payments, and they will be credited to their accounts. For some, this will include having a portion of their debt written off as well. What I would say though is if you do think it's you, then do keep an ear out, do keep an eye on your emails. And if you don't receive anything and you think you should have done, of course, you can chase your energy supplier. Ofgem has announced that it is expected to provide further information and updates in regards to this review, and specifically that will be regarding those other customers of British Gas, OVO and Utilita. So do listen out, and we will put an update on the Money to the Masses website and probably do a quick update on the podcast when those details are announced. So as I said at the start of the piece, Ofgem have been busy. Let's also now focus on the energy price cap. The announcement has come out, and from the 1st of July, the price cap will be cut by around about 7%. So for a typical household with a dual fuel tariff, it means annual savings of around about £130 a year, or just under £11 per month.
So there will be a lot of people who listen to the podcast thinking, well, they hear the energy price cap goes up and then it goes down. I mean, where are we? Now, Andy has created a bit of analysis and a chart that shows the historic price cap movements. It's on screen if you're watching this show, and we put a link to it in the notes as well. And what you'll see is that the drop in the energy price cap from July really just takes the price cap back to where it was roughly at the start of the year, and it will still be about 10% higher than it was in July 2024. So that gives you a feel for where the energy price cap is going. And the predictions going into the end of the year are for it to fall slightly again. And of course, the further you go into the future, the less reliable these predictions are. But what is interesting is that the best fixed deals now are some of the best we've seen in the last 2 years when you compare them to the energy price cap. We put them on screen. Again, we'll put links in the notes. And the best fixed rate deals you can get in the market at the moment are about 20% below the current energy price cap. Of course, when that drops in July, it's still going to be probably about 10% cheaper than that. So it's still a good time to fix your energy bills. And the other thing that why we want to bring it to the podcast, there'll be plenty of people who may be fixed in the autumn last year or late summer that will be coming up to perhaps their deals coming to an end, and they want to look at what they could be doing in terms of fixing again. But more importantly, there were a lot of deals that people were on that didn't charge you exit penalties if you switch to another fixed tariff with the same provider. And so that means there are some really good deals out there that you could potentially, even if you've already fixed, move to an even cheaper fix now. So this is a job for everybody to do after this podcast. Look at what deal you're on and have a look at your energy bills, because you could potentially save money.